What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Tonight we are gonna be discussing climate change denial. Specifically, this one guy that you already kind of saw before I switched over here. He thinks that climate change is not a real thing, and it's mainly because the sun exists, California gets rain, and what was it, like local weather apparently proves that climate change is not a real thing. Also, we need to focus on getting rid of carbon monoxide, not carbon dioxide, because apparently if we reduce the amount of carbon dioxide, we're only going to kill plants and shit, and then cause massive food shortages, which will starve everybody. So, if you guys are interested in this dumbass shit, then please stay tuned. You guys ready to look at this dumb shit right here? So this guy right here, which I believe I've got linked in the original video. The original video is like 30 minutes long. We're not looking at all 30 minutes of his rambling. For one thing, he goes off on tangents all the time, talking about Illuminati, UN's making rules for the United States, and fluoride. Did I tell you about the fluoride? It doesn't make the frogs gay, but apparently he's got a conspiracy about that. But anyways, so we're going to be taking a look at this guy right here. He doesn't think that climate change is real. But as we all know, man-made climate change is an actual thing. And he's got really bad reasons why he dismisses it. So let's get into this and see what he's... Let's just jump on into it.
Hey guys, how's it going? I am RB Truth versus Fact. Today's video, I just wanted to quickly...
Why is it that all of these truth channels only spew bullshit lies? Like, I'm just kind of curious. I'm not the first one to notice this either. But any channel that has truth in their name is about anything other than the actual truth.
Kind of get to the point of what the problem is with this whole myth of global warming. Or climate change, they call it now, right? Well, first of all, they say 97% consensus among all scientists that the climate has in fact getting more severe. Well, that's a lie.
No, it's not. Well, okay, so it's a little bit of a misrepresentation. So the actual thing is not like 97% of all scientists everywhere. That's a bit of a straw man. What it is 97% of the scientists that submitted papers on the topic of like climate science. 97% of those papers came out to be in support of man-made climate change. That is technically what the statistic is about. And this was actually a survey paper that was done that surveyed all of them and then gave the 97% number. So the 97% number isn't wrong, but it's also not the reason why climate change is an actual thing. It's the actual data that supports the 97% consensus that proves that climate change is an actual thing, especially man-made climate change, which he'll get into denying here in a minute.
First of all, if there's 97% consensus, give me the list. What are the scientists' names? What field of expertise? What do they specialize in?
Well, my guess is going to be fucking climate science. If I had to pick like a wide general field of it. But also you want their names? Their names are already published because it's a survey of published papers. And no, nobody, you do not deserve like the names, addresses, and phone numbers of scientists that have published papers on this. Well, yeah, for one thing, you can just fucking look it up. But another thing is that if you have to go and talk to every single one of these scientists to question them about their work, I mean, it's like, who the fuck are you at this point? Who are you to question their work? I agree that their work should be questioned, by the way, but by like peers. People that can actually tell them why they're wrong about something or why something doesn't make sense. Not by Joe Blow in his goddamn garage with a fucking American flag on his wall.
Where have they worked before? Just give me their names and their field of study and a phone number I can call. Because if there is 97% consensus amongst all scientists, I mean, there are 7.5 trillion people on this, 7.5 billion people on this planet, right?
Nice save there.
Yeah. Okay, out of that 7.5 billion, let's say maybe 1 and 2 billion, are engineers and scientists. So it'll be like 100,000 specialized, climate scientists, right?
I like how he's just sort of pulling random numbers out of his ass at this point, because he doesn't actually know like how many papers were submitted, like how many is in that 100% of scientists. He's just pulling numbers out of his ass at this point, and then being like, "Yep, those are the numbers right there, 100,000 climate engineers and scientists." And it's like, you could easily look this information up, but he wants other people to do the work for him. It's like, no, I don't want to learn this shit myself. I want you to spoon feed it to me right now with a baby spoon. You know them baby spoons that got the little rubber on the end of it so that they don't hurt themselves when they gnaw on that shit? Because I'm going to try to eat a fucking spoon.
Give me their names. Give me the list. I need to call them, and so they can share the data with me, right?
You can look up the papers yourself and get the data. Nobody. Why are you making this so much harder than it actually is? Because you can freely look up the papers and everything like that. You might have to pay some money to get the full paper, the full set of data. But, I mean, you're asking people to contact you with names and numbers of scientists so that you can personally talk to each and every one of them so that they can personally give you the data that you can easily go out on the internet and get? Prima donna, that is right, honey.
We're reaching critical mass, as they said. We're reaching critical mass. It is time to change now or face the consequences. Okay? Give me their names. They never give you the names.
Because you can freely look it up yourself, and also you having the names of scientists doesn't make climate change any more real. The data behind the papers is what supports the consensus.
They never tell you what country they're from. They just say 97% scientists agree. Bullshit. Plus, being a person of science myself, I can tell you, when there is a consensus of almost 100% or 97, let's say, exactly, then I know data is corrupted. Then I know the truth is being perverted, right?
So, you could use this kind of logic in any way, right? 100% of scientists would agree that gravity is a real thing. 100% of scientists, actual fucking scientists, would agree about this kind of stuff. But no, because it is 100% or near 100%, he has to question it because the data has been manipulated. This kind of fallacious reasoning right here just gets you into trouble, and you can use it in so many different funny and hilarious ways. 100% of people will agree that if you pass the speed limit, pass that state trooper, you will most likely get pulled over and get a ticket. And it's like, oh man, there must be a conspiracy here. 100%? Holy fuck.
It's not exactly the way that the scientists are agreeing that it is. There's facts in this world, right? There's a fact that the iPhone, it can call people, it can text message, and I can connect to the internet. That's a scientific fact. I see it, I experience it, and I use it.
Let's see, what would be classified as a scientific fact? In the most basic sense, a scientific fact is an objective and verifiable observation, in contrast with hypothesis or theory, which is intended to explain or interpret facts. So I would agree that those would be scientific facts, but because they're objective and verifiable, that you can do those things. or that those things operate in the way that you say. So I don't understand why you're separating this from what was said before. Well, huh. Yes, 100% of marine biologists would agree that whales have 15-foot penises. It has got to be some kind of conspiracy, I'm telling you.
But this whole climate change, there is no way I can verify it. No way. And these 97% scientists, there's no way I can verify that. There's no way I can confirm that.
Actually, there are several ways in which you can confirm both that the climate is changing in a very negative way for us and the 97% number. For the 97% number, you could get the same papers that were surveyed by that one paper, and then you can count up the number of papers that come to the conclusion of being in the positive side for man-made climate change. You can count all those up, you can do the percentage, and you can verify independently. So you could do that, but then to verify the climate is changing, I mean, really all you have to look at is the global temperature change over the past, 100 years or so. Or at least since the industrial age began. From pre-industrial to industrial, you can see that the climate's temperature has always steadily risen, and we see that in multiple effects around the globe, like the ice caps, how much ice is freezing up, and everything like that. So there's multiple ways that you can actually test and look at the fact that the climate change is actually happening. I believe there was a recent paper that was done where they mapped the currents in the ocean, and the currents have risen in temperature by about 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is a lot. It's a lot for the ocean's currents to raise in that amount of temperature. So I mean, there are verifiable ways that you can double check this information.
Right? So I just have to take their word, and as we all know, the corporate media, whether they're left or right, they just lie to you. You just sit back and just believe them, right? Just, blinders on, plug your ears, and just be like, yeah, okay, I trust you, I believe you.
See, this is exactly opposite to the goal of science right here. Science doesn't ask you to just blind yourself and accept what you're told. That is the conspiracy side, is to blind yourself and accept what you're told. Science actually asks you to investigate it and decide for yourself. People provide papers where they do experiments and they provide you with the data so that you can make your decision about it, even though they come to their own conclusion. So I don't understand why you're trying to gaslight the scientific community at this point and saying that we're asking people to just blind themselves and accept what we're told. When your particular side of this, the conspiracy theorist side of this, just ask people, hey, blind yourself, listen to what we tell you because we're telling you the truth, quote unquote. TM circle R copyright.
So that whole 97% consensus amongst all scientists that climate change is real is bullshit. Okay? 2.
No, it's not. But let's go on ahead and get to your second point here. By the way, this has been 3 minutes. This was about 7 to 10 minutes in the original video.
The UN came up with this resolution. No country came up and said it. No U.S. president came up and said climate change. This is a UN resolution. I mean, it was the same line and the same lie was touted and repeated by presidents and foreign administrators. But the UN is the one who passed the resolution.
Okay, I mean, honestly, I'm not all that up on UN resolutions and whatnot, but the UN is a collection of countries that have come together and have decided to work together in unison. And then when they make decisions, then it's up to the individual countries to make the changes that they all agreed upon to change in that particular situation. So it doesn't matter like the UN resolution or whatnot. I mean, honestly that has no like legal bearing over the United States, but it would be pretty shitty if we didn't like adhere to any resolution we agreed to.
There's the same, and people say, well, the UN, they're a global force of the United Nations. The UN has Agenda 21. And if you don't know what Agenda 21 is, just do a little research. Say
Agenda 21 to these guys is a conspiracy about, forcing a green initiative on the world, and how it's really just a cover up by the Illuminati to get people to spend money doing one way or another. I mean, honestly, it's just a bullshit conspiracy theory that actually doesn't have any weight in reality. So,
Agenda 21 real, Agenda 21 not real, and just read the facts for yourself. And that's some scary freaking shit right there. And I don't understand how. I mean, they're a foreign entity in the United States, right? I mean, that really is. They're a foreign entity in the United States.
No, the UN is not, like, it's comprised of, like, I guess, foreign entities, but they don't have any control over the United States. But anyways, Agenda 21 is a set of hopeful guidelines. This is coming from Rational Wiki, by the way. Is a set of hopeful guidelines for environmental action and social justice established by the UN in '92 at a conference in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It sets out a variety of goals for public policy at all levels and for civic action by non-governmental organizations. These include fair trade practices, sustainable energy and urban development, and debt reduction for the developing world. Like most such sets of guidelines, it was happily agreed upon and happily ignored for many years, except for the ne'er-do-wells like Sweden. Okay. Basically, it's a set of guidelines. It's the exact same kind of thing like with the Paris... I forget what the treaty was technically called, but the treaty that we recently pulled out with in Paris. There are a set of guidelines that would be helpful for everybody to actually adhere to, but it's not like enforceable in any kind of way.
I can create laws and dictate policies. That's mind-blowing. People talk about, international threats. Well, there's one right there. There's one right there in New York.
No, the UN is not an international threat. What the fuck are you talking about? Honey, he thinks that the UN is an international threat. Oh, man. So, it is weird. So, the Paris Climate Accord, that is the one that I was talking about.
But anyway, back to climate change. Climate change and this carbon...
So the back to climate change part, that was about a 2 to 3 minute section where he goes off on UN and Illuminati and everything like that, and then it cuts back to climate change.
Can also be taxed on fuel. So if you have a car and you use gasoline, it has to be taxed because it's bad for the environment, right? It's contributing to global warming.
Well, I mean, it's not that it has to be taxed, but the whole idea is that if you tax a certain thing, then people will want to use less of it so they pay less taxes, or at least you can use that money to funnel it back into cleaning up the environment and undoing the negative effects of whatever thing that you're taxing. So, I mean, that is the purpose of carbon taxes, and I really don't have a problem with carbon taxes. I mean, honestly, I'm concerned about our climate, and anything that I can do in any kind of way to help that, I would be very much on board for it. Arduin, 99.9% of scientists agree that GE is a terrible ukulele player. That is a fucking conspiracy. What are you fucking talking about, Arduin? I know. KC loves it. Everybody loves it. It's a conspiracy. That is just simply not true. I am fantastic at ukulele.
Right. As if you're going to tax cars and you're going to tax gasoline higher than what they already are right now, you also have to tax people. Not wages, not how much income they make, just for breathing. Because you're exhaling carbon dioxide, right?
So now he's saying that we have to tax people for just being alive because they breathe and they exhale carbon dioxide. Like, that's not what the carbon tax is for.
That's a greenhouse gas. If carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and the world has a maniacal way of wanting to destroy that, right? So then you as a person breathing air and exhaling carbon dioxide, you're gonna be taxed.
So prior to the industrialization era, the pre-industrialized world, you had a certain amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And I believe that certain amount was around 225 parts per million. Let's see. Carbon dioxide. Let me see. Let me. Really should have pulled this figure up beforehand, but I'm really sorry I didn't. Let's see. About 500 million years ago, as low as 180 parts per million. And then during the Devonian, it was around 2,000 parts per million. Huh? Right, yeah. Sorry, I was looking up exact numbers. So it says from the start of the Industrial Revolution, from about 280 parts per million during the 10,000 years up to the mid 18th century to 415 parts per million May 2019. So yes, we had like twice as much, a little less than twice as much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So like prior to that point, when we started adding more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, however many people were on the earth breathing and whatnot, I mean, that wasn't adding more CO2 to the atmosphere. I mean, that was just part of the fucking ecosystem and shit. Like it was already part of the climate. So you don't have to tax people for simply living because they're already part of the ecosystem.
Even though, yes, I understand we only use 14% of the oxygen that we inhale. I understand that we don't breathe 100% air. I get it. But they just sit there and tax people. So there's three things right there. The fourth one is they're saying that weather systems are becoming more severe and more damaging.
Yes. So before he goes into his crazy ass conspiracy rant here, I want to tell you what the actual reality of the situation is. With the warming oceans, storms are going to get stronger, and we've already seen that come to fruition. The hurricanes and tornadoes that we've experienced and droughts and everything like that have been more severe in the past few years than they have ever been. And they're only geared to become even more severe as time goes on and if we don't change things. So what I'm trying to say is that these storms actually are getting more dangerous. They're getting stronger, and it's only going to get worse with time.
Than ever before. Severe droughts, severe severe hurricanes and snowstorms. It's funny because when they were at the height of the whole global warming scare, we had the biggest snowstorm. They called it the Arctic freeze.
Yes. So there will still be snow as climate change continues to affect our planet. There will still be snow. There's still going to be rain. There's still going to be, storms and all this other shit. The thing is that the extreme of how extreme these storms are going to be more intense. Like they're going to be stronger. They're going to be deadlier and everything.
Across the nation of Canada and all of America, parts of like maybe northern Georgia, northern Texas area, and up. was just massive cold wind, massive snow, massive. I remember. I was.
Yes, and even with man-made climate change being a factor, those things would still happen. That does not actually disprove climate change. Local weather is not global climate.
Coming to California, I was on my way to California, and I had to delay my travels by 2 days because all of the roads had iced over.
Sorry, I gotta read Peachy's comment real quick. Oh, for fuck's sake. That was caused by fucking climate, you ass hat! The Arctic air is supposed to stay in the fucking Arctic!
So, massive scare tactic that they were trying to use, right?
No, it's not a scare tactic. It's just, like, is it a scare tactic for me to tell somebody that if they walk off the curb into a busy intersection, they're gonna die? Like, is that a scare tactic, really? Or is it just pointing out the consequences of your actions? Just like if I point out the consequences of our actions by, like, Trump pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord, not doing anything to research more into renewable energy, pumping up clean coal like you washed it with fucking suds and shit, and now it's fine to burn. Like, doing that kind of shit is going to lead to even more dangerous storms, and it's going to cause bigger natural disasters. That's not a scare tactic. That's just preemptively telling you what your decisions are going to cause.
And then that's when the narrative actually changed. Remember when it changed, like, immediately after that? It was like, started calling it climate change and climate control or something like that. It was just the biggest. That was when I kind of woke up and said, hey, wait a minute now. What the fuck is this shit going on?
Well, the whole global warming thing, I guess, was sending the wrong message. I really don't know why they changed it from global warming to climate change, other than I feel like climate change is a lot more descriptive. Maybe that's the reason why. But it really doesn't matter what the reason why is as to what type of language they were using and what they changed to, because it's still happening. The data still supports man-made climate change gearing up to fuck us over.
That's how it really is, man. Yes, storms are more damaging. Of course they're more damaging. Why? Because we have built more shit in the last fucking 50 years. So of course if you look at the trail of damage and the dollar amount of damage, the hurricane is the same.
No, the hurricanes are not the same. Have you seen that side-by-side picture of, like, the worst hurricane that hit, what was it, like North Carolina or something like that? I can't remember which hurricane that was. And then compared it to this last round of hurricanes that happened. Like, they're twice, if not 3 times as big. They're giant. Okay, they're bigger. You know why they're bigger? Because the seas are warmer. When the seas are warmer, that feeds into these hurricanes and everything like that, and it makes them bigger. It makes everything a lot more extreme. This is how basic weather works.
Just more shit for it to destroy. We've built, our civilizations have grown. I mean, people, what was it, 1950?
And no, the intensity of a storm isn't determined by how much it actually damages. How much it damages is a very big factor into gauging, like, the storm, but it does not, like, how much it damages does not determine how fast the wind speed is, or how much hail falls from it, or how much ground to cloud lightning there is, or anything like that. Like, it doesn't increase any of those things. However much shit we've got out there right now that is going to be damaged by a tornado does not change how intense that tornado is, or how intense that hurricane is, or thunderstorm, or whatever.
Nobody was living in, like, Arizona. Nobody was living in, Nevada.
In the 1950s, nobody was living in Nevada or Arizona. No one at all. Totally devoid of life, okay? Nobody fucking settled Arizona and Nevada, wherever the fuck else. Nobody settled those places until the 1980s, motherfuckers. What the fuck are you talking about?
But they built. Civilizations grew. Cities grew. Massive boom. Oil.
Las Vegas, established 1965.
Whatever. Silicon Valley. Explosions of technology just came. So they built those places up. And when a storm comes through, it does some damage. Storms are damaging more stuff, not because they're more severe, because there's more stuff around it to be destroyed.
But the climate is making the storm stronger. Like, you get that wind speed and how fast it's traveling, the duration of the storm. All of that factors into how dangerous the storm is. And that's not controlled by how much shit we fucking build on the face of this earth.
Massive roads have been built everywhere. And they're spending, what is it, like $30-40 million, something like that, on roads and stuff. So, of course, there's more stuff for it to be destroyed. So,
So yeah, our infrastructure shit. We should probably be spending more money on infrastructure. But our president is more concerned with pleasing fucking Putin's dick.
No, that whole storms are becoming way more severe. That's a lie. Like in California, they're saying there's 10 years of drought. 10 years of climate change. Oh, we've been consistently having rainfall on a normal basis this year. Oh, we'll also see next year. Oh my god, it's 2017. We're getting more water. It's just a temporary thing. People should still conserve water. 2018 comes, okay, we got some rain now. Lakes are pretty good. Still, we're still in recovery from a drought. We're in recovery mode.
So, what a drought is when an area receives less than the average amount of rainfall that year. That is what a drought is. Doesn't mean that rain just doesn't ever fall there. It means that the amount of rain that has fallen is drastically less than what it should receive. So, I can tell that he doesn't know this by the fact that he's like, oh, look, we're in a drought, but I saw it rain the other day, so we must not be in a drought anymore. That kind of rhetoric should indicate to you that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Because he doesn't. I did look up droughts, or the most recent droughts or whatnot for California, and there was a drought between 2011 and 2017. But just because there was a drought during that time doesn't mean that there was no rain. It just received less than the average amount of rainfall, and it was it would have required much more rain for them not to enact water saving policies and shit like that.
And just today is raining outside right now.
Well, fuck, honey. It's raining outside, therefore climate change can suck a big, salty devil dick.
I don't know if you can hear that or not, but yeah, it's raining right now. These people, they're lying. They're lying on reality.
We're not lying. You just don't know how to fucking read anything and do any kind of research. You want shit handed to you, fed to you, with a little toddler spoon with the rubber shit on the end of it.
And when you lie on something that's reality, it's gonna backfire and it's gonna make you look like an idiot.
Sorry, we're taking fire here. We're in fucking Afghanistan this week.
So, this whole bullshit about droughts and severe weather, all that stuff, is just a complete lie. Okay? Here's the other part. They want to eliminate carbon, right? Carbon dioxide is classified as a greenhouse gas, and it's what's causing global warming, and it's terrible, and we should just get rid of it.
Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and it's not like it's not as simple as just pinning it on carbon dioxide. There's a lot of things that go into it. Like, it is a prime component of it. But also, nobody wants to get rid of all the carbon dioxide. Like, I don't know where you've been hearing this from, but this is a total straw man argument. Nobody wants to get rid of all the carbon dioxide. We want to, scale back the amount of carbon dioxide in the air or in the atmosphere, because all of that carbon dioxide is trapping more heat here on the Earth, which is causing the oceans to warm up, which is causing more intense storms. And you see how it's sort of a fucking chain reaction thing going on there? But maybe you should look up chain reactions and how that fucking causality shit works.
Well, excuse me. What do the trees, what do the grass, what do plants, and what does crops like corn and rosemary and strawberries and peaches, what do you think they breathe? Carbon dioxide. What do you think they exhale? Oxygen. So you want to diminish the carbon in the air so much. Guess what? Massive forests all around the earth are going to die. Or they're going to shrink at the most. And they're definitely going to shrink.
Let me just get something straight real quick. You think that if we return the carbon dioxide level from 415 parts per million as of May 2019 to like 280 parts per million, you think forests are gonna fucking die? You think vegetation is gonna die if we reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the air? We're not looking, huh? I mean, if you take out carbon dioxide completely, sure, maybe, but I mean, that's not what anybody is asking. None of that's actually going to happen. We're just looking to reduce it by 200 parts per million. Like, that would be awesome. If we could reduce it by 200 parts per million, that would be great. That's not asking a lot. Well, I mean, it is asking a lot considering the atmosphere and everything, but you understand what I mean. We're not looking to take all of the carbon dioxide out of the air. That's just ridiculous.
But massive amounts of plant life is going to die. And then comes a food shortage, a global food shortage. And then, guess what? You either capitulate to the system, you either play their stupid games, you bow to their bending of reality, or you starve to death.
Okay, I feel like he's building up to this whole idea that the Illuminati is pushing climate change stuff so that they can kill off vegetation and control the population through starvation. Like, I feel like that's the way that he's heading. Also, slippery slope fallacy here, because, you start off by saying, oh, if we cut back on the CO2, plants are going to die. And then if the plants die, then we don't have anything to feed fucking people. And then starvation. And then the Illuminati rise to power and take control of the entire world. And then you got to capitulate and follow all their rules and shit, or you die of being hungry. That's it. If that's not a slippery slope, I don't know what the fuck is.
Thank God we pulled out of the Paris Accords. Thank God. Because the noose was around our neck. And people...
How is the noose around our neck? I mean, come on. It's not like we're trying to invade Revolutionary era airports or anything like that. I mean, how was the noose around our neck with the Paris Climate Accord? I really don't understand that. Like, it's a voluntary accord that you could choose to be a part of, which we did choose to be a part of, and it was just a set of guidelines. Like, there's nothing that binds us to doing whatever the accords were. It's like, yes, this would be great to do. We are going to work towards that. It has literally no effect on us legally. So I don't understand how the noose could be tied around our neck with that.
Make the right choices, by the way, That's a big problem that I see, that you want to diminish carbon dioxide. What you really should be worried about, if you really want to help the earth and you really want to cut down on pollution, you really want to stabilize the earth climate, you should focus on a way to get carbon monoxide out. Because if you burn oil and gasoline in your car, guess what happens? What comes out of the exhaust pipe is not carbon dioxide, it's carbon monoxide.
Wait, is he talking about like when your car starts burning oil that it has, or does he think that cars burn oil? I'm really unclear as to what he thinks the cars do with oil at this point. But also, I agree. Those particular things are good to curb because those things, while they do release carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, the monoxide, once it gets released into the air and it escapes, it will eventually bond with another oxygen atom and become carbon dioxide. So that's why like carbon tax and everything like that is put on like cars and everything, and why we're trying to look for alternative fuel sources is because to cut down on the amount of those particular gases being released out into the atmosphere. Because either way that you go about it, monoxide, dioxide is still getting added to our atmosphere.
You know, what comes out of a cigarette is carbon monoxide. That's not carbon dioxide. There's a major difference. So this carbon monoxide is the actual culprit. But here's the other thing. The UN also specified that humans are the main factor of climate change.
Yes, humans are the main factor of the current extent of climate change and how fast climate change is happening. Because while climate change has happened over the course of the Earth's lifespan, it's always happened in a very slow manner so that it doesn't like change rapidly or whatever. But because of the industrial era, the industrial revolution, we started adding more carbon dioxide to our atmosphere. We have started the change, and it's beginning to happen a lot quicker than it normally would. That's the man-made part of climate change.
Okay, yeah, we are a part of it, but we are not solely responsible for that.
Yeah, we kind of are. At least for how fast it's moving, for how fast our climate is changing, and for the extreme climate change. That's what we're responsible for because we've added a lot of greenhouse gases to our atmosphere. That's on us. And you can see that by the fact that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere prior to us starting to burn coal and add those gases to our atmosphere compared to after is pretty damning evidence. And we really only have to look at a graph for that. Of course, I can't get you the phone numbers of the people that put that graph together, so maybe you won't believe it.
Because, let me put it this way. If you look up to the sky, right, and you look at the sun, it's going to be a massively just white ball of just, you know, nuclear fusion, right? That's gonna blind you. After 30 seconds, if you stare at the sun, you're gonna go blind. Or
do not look at the sun. Just don't do it. This guy's already looked at the sun way too much.
At least have major, retina damage. So that big ball of hydrogen, just a nuclear fusion. We, here on Earth, we have a nuclear power plants and nuclear bombs. They are a nuclear fission. Fission when you force things together. Fusion bonds the atoms together. It's a completely different process.
That isn't what fission and fusion are! Nuclear fission, the kind of thing that happens in nuclear plants, is when you break atoms apart. And then the sun does the exact opposite with fusion and puts them together. You know, like a puzzle fucking piece. It just shoves them together like that. Okay? Two different things that produce energy. That's not what fission is.
More efficient, if you want to say. So you have this big, gigantic hydrogen, massive ball of just a nuclear reactor, and who's bending space and time and gravity, and that has no effect on the Earth at all whatsoever.
Actually, that's nothing that scientists say. Scientists would agree that the sun has a major effect on the Earth's climate, but the fact that we have more CO2 gas in the air, well, not just CO2, but other greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, it's causing all of that heat that is, provided by the sun. It's being kept here on Earth. It's warming up the Earth. It's warming up the oceans and everything like that. So, no scientist in their right mind would say that the sun has no, effect on the Earth. That's just fucking ridiculous, and it's nothing that a scientist would say.
No effect. We have this massive hydrogen ball in the middle of the sky, and it has no effect. Yeah, we have an electromagnetic gravitational field from the north and south pole that reflects off some of the sun's harmful. The sun also emits infrared, X-ray, gamma rays, ultraviolet rays, UVA, UVB. The temperature on the moon when it faces the sun is 200 degrees. And then when it faces away from the sun, minus 300 degrees. Massive temperature shifts. I understand it. I agree. I agree that climate must be regulated. It must be promoted. But to sit...
Wait, climate should be regulated and promoted? I mean, I don't know what kind of machine he thinks exists out there, but we're not regulating the climate. The climate's going to change regardless of what we want it to do. We can just curb the effects indirectly.
Sit there and say that it's just humans. It's complete false. It's just misrepresentation of what reality is. I've studied.
The reality is that we are adding more greenhouse gases to our atmosphere, which is trapping the heat coming from the sun and heating up our oceans and heating up everything else. So,
space my entire life. I understand the reality of space. Imagine this. This is the Earth, right? It spins.
It spins. and then that's where I had to cut him off, because he starts going into this whole idea about the Earth spinning and orbiting around the moon or around the sun, and the moon orbits around the Earth, and then we're all hurtling through space and all this other stuff, and there's a wobble or something, and he goes to this long explanation of our movement through the galaxy and everything like that, and he just goes off on a tangent about it, but it ends up just being him saying that climate change is a myth because of his crazy ass fucking misinformed ideas. So that's it for him tonight. He's fucking out there. We're about to go into the Skeptic Mafia comments, but I just want to say that if you're not staying for the Skeptic Mafia comments, I really appreciate you guys being here. If you will, leave a comment down below, leave a like, and I guess I'll see you heathens on Monday, where we're going to probably talk about some more atheist-related content on the live stream. So I guess I'll see you heathens then. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice, all that kind of good shit.